I'm Nick Fish. Do you believe in second chances? My guests today do. Mike Shrunk and Roy J. Welcome back to Outlook Portland with Nick Fish and my guest, Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Shrunk, and Portland businessman and president of the African American Chamber of Commerce, Roy J. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick.
Good morning, Nick.
Roy, let's start with you. Project Clean Slate. What is it and how did it get started?
Project Clean Slate was actually it was one of those last-minute ideas. The chamber does an annual event where we have a dinner and things of that nature, and we pass out awards. And I decided in the middle of the night that I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just, we got tired of giving out certificates and patting people on the back and thanking them to come. And
one less dinner to go to for an elected official.
That's
Mike.
right.
I begin to hear music to both of our ears, candidate and official.
And so at 12:30 at night, I decided, I'm getting on the phone, calling up some advisory board members and said, look, I've got this idea. Let's do something that's going to impact the entire community. Forget about the rubber chicken dinners and lunches and things of that nature. Let's really do something, and that's how it was basically born.
What's the problem you were trying to fix?
The problem was that a lot of folks out there are strapped because and when I say strapped, because they've got either minor criminal convictions, they got driver's license issues, they got other things that's preventing them from getting jobs, and so they find other alternative ways for them to be able to make money, i.e. money underneath the table selling drugs or doing whatever that they have to do in order to make a living, because most places that you go and apply, they say you must have a valid driver's license, or they've done what I call some dumb stuff in the past.
Mike, when Roy first came to you with this idea, here you are, the elected district attorney. Your job is to prosecute people and to put them in jail or fine them. And he came up with an idea to find a way to maybe get people back into the mainstream by forgiving some past indiscretions and sins. How did you react to it?
Really welcomed Roy and welcomed what he was trying to do. Jim Hennings, the Metropolitan Public Defender, and I had been running what we called surrender days and things like this in the past, and we had 40,000 warrants out. We knew if we can get people hooked up and back in the system, we could do something. But Roy's enthusiasm and Roy's added innovation to the program, we know people do dumb things, and they ought to be held accountable. There's nothing wrong with people being held accountable, but it ought not to stamp them for life. And all of us agreed. Anyone who's been around public safety for a long time, you want these folks back in the community as productive men and women. And with Roy's energies and some of the ideas that Roy brought to the table, this was it was just a coincidence. It was almost the perfect storm. We brought together things, and it's turned out great.
Well, Roy, let's talk about how you pull it together in a short period of time. Who were your community sponsors that helped you do this, and how many people showed up on the day?
We did I think it was about 2 months worth of pre-planning, right. And the chamber called on our regular corporate sponsors and other folks, including Safeway, Enterprise, Fred Meyer's, Portland Community College. I mean, there was a whole host of folks that stepped forward, no questions asked. This was not a golf tournament. This was not any type of fundraiser. This was something that was going to impact the entire community, and that seems to be the posture of the African American Chamber, is to make sure that we are inclusive of everybody. Just because we're African American Chamber, that does not stop us from taking care of other people's situations. I think the reason that this worked so well, Nick, is because of this gentleman and all the rest of the folks that are on the other side of the fence, so to speak, because where else could this happen except Portland, Oregon? Right. This hasn't happened in Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, Miami, Chicago, any place else where you've got a big population.
If the district attorney and some of the Multnomah County judges were not on board, this frankly would not have happened.
It would have just been another idea.
Mike, you're no stranger to innovative programs. We've had a community court here in Multnomah County for some time that meets out community service in lieu of jail time. So I take it this idea was sort of consistent with your vision for looking for creative alternatives.
It was made for it. But the interesting thing, and Roy and I convened a meeting, and the first thing we did was look around and say, who else isn't here?
Right.
And who do we need? What people ought to be, and that was the organizing meeting. And then we had other people I know called Roy. They called our office and said, hey, that sounds like an idea. We want in on it too.
Correct.
And it just kind of took off.
Wow. Now the first day for Project Clean Slate, I take it, was on July 9th?
July 9th.
The middle of the summer. How many people showed up?
3,000 plus.
3,000?
3,000 plus. Now that we had not anticipated 3,000.
How'd they find out about it?
By word of mouth, emails, the chamber network, the court system, DMV, and just people just, you tell two people, they tell two people, and they came from everywhere, every zip code all over the city.
Tell me the profile of the people who showed up.
Anybody from business people to people that are in lower economic status, young folks, gang members. We had Crips and Bloods standing 5 feet apart from each other, not creating a problem, and we had no police presence whatsoever.
Of the 3,000 people who showed up, how many people got processed?
We probably processed a little over 1,100 people.
1,100 or 1,200. Mike, what are some of the kinds of infractions that got addressed that can really haunt someone and prevent them from getting employment or other kinds of...
Well, it can be any of the misdemeanors. It can be the traffic offenses, misdemeanors, Class C felonies, property offenses. These are the ones that get people tangled up with the system. They get in the Department of Motor Vehicles. That was another partner that really came up to the table with us, Department of Motor Vehicles, the state of
people
Oregon.
had their license suspended for some reason.
And then it just compounds and compounds and compounds, so they get caught again. Thefts, the normal thing that people, drugs, a lot of people just throw up their hands and say, I'll never get out of this hole. And so they stay down, then they get caught again, and it goes over and over and over. And if we can get our arms around them, tell them, we don't want to lock you up, we want to get you straightened out. We want to put you where you can get a job.
And become productive tax-paying citizens.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, we have to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the success that you've had, future plans. I also want to talk about some of the criticism you heard when you were planning this wonderful enterprise. This is Outlook Portland with Nick Fish. Were people getting a free pass here in Project Clean Slate, or was there some punishment associated with getting their records cleaned up?
Well, there certainly was some punishment. There was community restitution. What we did is we converted some fines to classroom hours of responsibility class, to work parties, to community service out with the nonprofits in the community, the metro area-wide community. What we ran into was these people were getting tangled up with warrants outstanding, and we had judges on station right at the community college. They would recall the warrant, convert some of the punishment to classroom hours. Actually, the first day we did it in July, we ran classes right there at the community college, so people could get credit. So no, it wasn't a free pass. You weren't just slapped on the wrist and sent out.
Roy, I read that Project Clean Slate got the Spirit of Portland Award, which is obviously one of the highest awards you can get here locally. How has this whole exercise, this whole event changed your life?
It's changed my life drastically. I mean, I'm still in business, but this is a passion that you just can't say no to. This thing has just constantly grown, Nick, over and over and over again. More people are calling, more people want to get involved from other counties, from other cities, other states. And it is something about being able to look at people's faces when they're walking out of there, where they thought, like Mike said, they thought that their whole future was doomed. They couldn't get a job. They had all this stuff.
They could never pass a background check.
Right.
They couldn't work at even McDonald's probably.
Yeah, and this isn't a cure-all for everything, but a majority of the people, if they stick to the plan and understand exactly what they have to do, then it seems to work out. And I've sat up there many nights and cried with folks as they want to thank everybody. I mean, some of the same people that have helped put them behind bars, they're sending them letters and calling and thanking them for all the help they were giving them.